I woke up 4 days later here at Indianapolis, which was a bit of a surprise, with my father and Tracy at my bedside, and I obviously didn't come just to wake up, but I mean, the first thing I said to him was, they cut my legs off, right? I mean, and my dad, no, you're in Indy, you know, they're trying to save him.
Maybe experience a little bit of peace right there.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
you're gonna have your legs.
for sure, some peace. You know, there was another thing that, you know, even when I heard double amputee, that's a shocker that you never want to hear. But the guy named Ed Hyder that built some of the super modifieds I ran that made me a huge success. That he was part of my team. He built these cars. I was the house driver. Trigueiro family ran the cars. We were the team. We were the winning. And he was a big part of my career and my success. And he was a boater. He drag raced boats, and he got into an accident. And he was holding on. You know, when the boats start flying around, that sometimes sucks you out of those darn things. Yeah. You know, back in the day.
Exactly.
Well, he was hanging on so hard, and then the boat got airborne that his foot actually went to the bottom of the boat. And then when it came back on the water, it mangled his foot pretty good. And he went through gangrene. He went to Stanford University all the time. He was a Fresno guy. And he, in the shop, you know, he was always limping around. He had a wheelchair in the shop to get around easier. And he went through pain for a long time. I mean, he was in pain for years that I knew him. And I remember going to California to the funeral, and I seen Ed walk, and I go, wow, his leg's good. They fixed his leg. You know, I mean, they finally got it because he was walking great, and he came up, and you know, we caught up on some old times. And I go, man, you walk great. I mean, they finally fixed it. I go, what'd they do? What'd they have to do? And he goes, they cut it off, right? Oh. I got a prosthetic. I go, wow. I mean, so that God had me go through that.
Yeah.
Because when I heard it, I thought, hey, Ed, he walked great. You know, so that was the last thing I kind of remember, even though that's not what you want to hear.
Right.
But, you know, I remember seeing a guy that struggled in life for a long time that walked perfectly with a prosthetic. So that was...
Gives you hope.
Gives you hope, exactly.
So you go through a series of, depending how you count them, 21 to 23 surgeries. I'd like you to walk us through that part of your life. And if you ever think you're going to race again, and do you ever... is that your goal? Do you want to race again?
Yeah, so, yeah, I definitely wanted to race again. I knew that immediately.
That's amazing.
And at that point, I was the only driver to participate in every IndyCar Series race. That nobody else had been in every single one until that point. So,
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking the next race was the next weekend, and I remember Tony and Laura George come into the hospital.
Tony owns the series, and his family owns the Indy track.
Exactly, and they were all so good to me and my family, but I don't really remember saying it honestly, because I was obviously not thinking. Sedated pretty well, but. I go, hey, Tony, I says, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it this week. You know? And he's like, wow, this guy's serious, right? So, yeah, well, it's okay, you know. But that was in my mind. I wanted to be there that weekend, not knowing still the injuries. You know, I thought, oh, they're not cutting them off. I'm good. Patch me up. Let's go. You know what I mean? Because I'd never really been hurt before.
Right.
Not knowing that, you know, it was 2 years to the day of the accident. I had my 21st surgery. And so it was, you know, months in the hospitals. I remember the first, you know, I just wanted to go outside again. I just wanted to go outside and have some fresh air. That was a goal. And then the next goal is, you know, I want to be able to push a wheelchair, you know, get in a wheelchair and be able to get myself around. And it was about being able to walk again and being able to, you know, lead a life again, hopefully somewhat pain-free, and lead a normal life, and be able to, you know, be able to walk your kids, you know, into Disneyland or you know, be able to do sporting activities with them and be there for them. And so it was a challenge. Like I say, in the back of my mind, one of the reasons I worked hard as I did is I wanted to race again. But I didn't want to tell anybody, because, you know, when you have really so many people helping you, and that so many people I counted on to help me because I needed it. I mean, I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything, really. I had to be to so many appointments once I got out of the hospital, which was 6 months later. And so the last thing I wanted to do is say, hey, man, I want to race again. So, but in the back of my mind, part of the fight and part of the, you know, working out, and, you know, I had another personal trainer, Steve Hoffacker, that was amazing. That he goes, we're going to get you strong where you can, and then when your feet are good, you're going to be, super healthy everywhere else, which he was absolutely right.
Because you didn't walk for 5?
So no, I didn't walk. I didn't walk for probably a year and probably a year and 3 months, somewhere in there.
Oh my goodness! So it's almost 15 months.
Yeah. So actually walk.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of skin damage and tissue damage and stuff, and so I couldn't put pressure on my feet at all.
And the surgeries were on your bones and your skin, right?
Yeah. So, that was another thing. Waking up, it's a whole book. I think a whole different story on just the 2-year experience of hospital, because it's a full story. But when I woke up and I had external fixators on my feet, knowing that I had big issues there. But then I had drain tubes coming out of my lat muscles, and I had these cellophane wraps on the side of my legs, and I'm going, I thought it was just my legs, and the doctor said, well, we had to take good parts to fix your bad ones. And so they took my muscles out of my lat muscles. That's the biggest muscles in your bodies. And they took muscle from my lats to actually build feet. They took bone from my hips and my knees, and they took skin from my thighs to build feet, basically.
Oh my.
So these doctors were amazing.
Oh my word.
So now my whole body's like wiped out.
Yeah, you're hurting bad.
Hurting. Yeah.
And where are the surgeries? They take place different?
All at Methodist, basically.
All at Methodist in Indianapolis?
Mm-hmm. All Ortho Indy.
What a fantastic
that was Dr. Scheid and his team, which, the first surgery was 20, he can tell you better, but I think it was like 26 hours for the first surgery, just getting carbon fiber. And
that's the length of it?
Yeah, they had 4 doctors, Trammell, Scheid, Weber, and Bailey. All 4 would switch around, working on me, just cleaning and trying to figure out. They had an actual skeleton like you see in the schoolroom, trying to figure out where bones went, and what they could save. And I fused, my left foot's completely fused up. My right one is pretty much fused. I have a little bit of ankle motion, but they were amazing on what they were able to do. And then they had the skin doctors come in to take, the muscle and the skins and do muscle flaps, do the skin grafts, do, basically build feet.
Mm. Well, you're the comeback kid. At what point do you decide you're going to get in a race car, and how does that develop?
So, I started driving the 2-seater again. And I went to those guys, all great friends. I was the first one to ever drive the 2-seater.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was the first one to ever do it. I guess I was the only one, I don't know if crazy enough, dumb enough, I don't know what, but they figured I would do it, and I did.
And that's the IndyCar experience where somebody can pay to go around the track.
For a ride.
They're in the second seat, so to speak.
Yeah, and let me tell you about the first car. Was a car cut in half and extended, and we had full power. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we're going, I'm driving as fast as I could drive it. I don't know. I got somebody with me, and they don't know how on the edge I really was.
Oh, my.
Now we got them, tuned down a little bit. We got a better car. It's a purposely built car. So it's came a long ways. And so I went to those guys. Hey, man, is it okay? Can I drive some 2-seater stuff? And so started doing, driving the 2-seater for them, knowing that my feet would work on the pedals, knowing that I could stay in the car for long periods of time. And it just kind of got the wheels rolling again. And Scott Jasek, one of the co-owners of the Indy Racing Experience, and I did a lot of road. We were on the road a lot doing tours and 2-seater events and things. And one day I said, you know what, I want to race again. He was the first one I told. And he goes, really? And this is 5 years later, 4.5 years later, really. And he goes, you really want to? I go, yeah, I never really told anybody, but I want to do it. I want to figure out how to do it. And God heard me on that too, because we didn't have anything to do with it, Scott or I, but we did a 2-seater event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the people that were there, there was a lot of influential people that were there that heard my story, because I would tell, the night before I went and told them my story and what they were going to experience in the 2-seater, and a little bit about the history of the Speedway and what a special time it really is to be able to do that. And the next day we did the rides, and a gentleman came up and said, man, so you don't race anymore? And I go, nah, I'd love to, but to do it right, it takes funding, and I'm kind of like the horse put out to pasture, so to speak. It takes a lot of money. So these owners, to have faith and confidence after sitting out for so long is difficult. And he goes, well, what would it take? And I told him. He goes, well, let's do it. And that's how it all happened.
And who was that?
Todd Bradley from Hewlett Packard.
Mm.
Yeah, he was the guy that made it all, made the dreams come true, and so we did just the Indy 500 because I said, I just want to come back for a race. I don't want to end my career in an accident like that. So I just want to do.
That's a big deal to a driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Very big deal. And so I just wanted to do the Indy 500. And by the way, I didn't race anything for 6 years. Nothing. Not a sprint car, not a super modified, not midget, nothing because of the insurance. I had a disability policy. It was a long story of it. So
to honor that, you can't be in the car.
Yeah. So my first race back was at the Indy 500. I mean, it was like, just go for the big one. And
what year was that?
That was in 2006. It was my comeback.
And you were in the Hewlett-Packard car?
Hewlett-Packard car. And so it was all because of Todd. Honestly, it was all because of his belief in me. And we came back and did it and finished. I was in the top 5 majority of the day. And the rains came and shortened the race. We ended up 9th. And so I had a great run and we were competitive all day. And and Tony George, I was driving for Tony George. He gave me the opportunity to drive one of his cars, and I got out of that car going, I could have been in the top 5. I mean, we had opportunity here, and I was telling everybody I just do one and done. Just thank you. I told Tony George, hey, just want to come back, want to do the 500. Told Todd, told my family, told my friends, I just need this one race, and so. There was a lot of congratulations. There was a lot of, the team was super happy. I was happy.
You're in international media at that time. Everybody's covering this.
And there's a lot of people there at my car just because of, obviously the winner, which was Dario, with the rain shortened race. But I had a lot of media around me too. Being able to run in the top 5 and the comeback and how successful we were. And I said, well, first thing I got to tell everybody is. First, I lied because I said I just wanted to run one Indy 500, but that was way too much fun. There's no way. I got to do this again. And with the support of Todd and Hewlett Packard and really that point of my life when I wasn't racing, I did find other things to do in business. I started a freestyle motocross company. I had some race series. Just learned how to do other business outside of the motorsports. Well. Not outside of motorsports, but outside of racing, driving a car. And Todd and I he became, we're best of friends still today, and we just hit it off and became really good friends. And I think that was the most important thing, but that friendship and being together and doing things together just outside of racing completely brought up a lot of talk, a lot of conversation as friends do. And I learned what corporate America needs, and what corporate America needs is to sell product and to get their product out there and to be able to increase sales. And so I was able to do that through our sport of IndyCar racing, and we had a great relationship. We did good for each other. Hewlett Packard continued with me till just this last year, so we had a long run together. And
nothing happens in an economy until something is first sold.
Yeah,
that's the
right.
very first thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so, everything changes, everything comes to an end, and unfortunately, a great relationship it came to an end, and opportunities he gave me, and to now be a co-owner in a car, and to finish 3rd and 5th in the championship with them, giving them a win, giving HP a couple wins, and it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. So.
Well, 2011, it's your last race at Indy, and I remember being in the pits with you during qualifications. You and I spoke at the prayer breakfast that they did that year at the Indy 500. Talk about what that was like. Do you know that's your final year, or you're not sure yet?
I knew that. I knew when that happened with Thomas and I that then I raced a few other races that year, and we went to Chicago and in 2010, and geez, I qualified terrible. The car just wasn't there. It was late in the year and we didn't have the proper pieces, and the team didn't have the budget really to get them. And at that point, I'm thinking, at this point in my career, there's 2 things that have to happen. Number 1, I have to be enjoying it and having fun. And number 2, I still have to be competitive, because if those things don't happen, it's not whole for me. It's the reason I'm there. And so that's the race. I thought, geez, I got up that morning to go to that Chicago race with going, I really didn't even want to be in the race. I mean, we were off the pace. It's a wide open track. You can only do what you can do. But then, during the race, we were good. I mean, we started passing guys. I go, what the heck? I remember Elio and Briscoe and I think, were side by side for like 10 laps, right?
Wow.
And I'm not even supposed to be running these guys as bad as we qualified. But in the race, I had a good race car, and we had a good finish. The team was extremely happy, and I thought, you know what? I had fun again. I thought, well, that's the first time I came to the track, not excited, but then I had fun during the race, so I kind of put that aside, and I wanted to come back and do another 500, and at that time that team shut down. They decided not to continue that team because of no sponsorship. So I went back to Dennis Reinbold, who I drove for before, and Dennis, I have a great relationship and a lot of fun, and we were running good. And I'll have to say that there was a mistake made at the start of that race where a nose wing was adjusted improperly. Nobody's real fault, just it was a mistake made, so the car had big time understeer. But two things happened: is knowing the car had understeer, trying to fix it during a few pit stops, but I didn't drive the way I was supposed to drive. I didn't drive thinking, okay, we got to get through the day at 500 miles. I kept pushing and trying to try different things with the car to make it better. And I made a mistake and got into the wall. It wasn't a hit. It was just a sidewall brush. But when you brush an Indy car, it bends suspension and you're done for the day. And at that point, I thought, you know what? That was the first mental mistake I've made for a long, long time. I was fighting, I was struggling, I wasn't competitive, and I thought, that it was time to turn the page. And I had some crazy things coming up. I was in my 40s, and I had some opportunities with some great athletes that do programs for athletes 50 and above. So they're willing to fund my whole program and go do it right, because there's not how many athletes at 50 can run the Indy 500. Right. And so there was a lot of things going through my mind, but, God just told me it was time. The only time I miss it, honestly, when I do radio and TV and I'm at the racetrack, when they're out there getting ready to race. I don't miss anything else. I don't miss the testing. I don't miss the gym. I don't miss the all the work, the engineer meetings and all this stuff. But when it comes to racing, I miss that part. I wanted to be in the car at that point. But I went back to my grassroots racing. I'm having a blast.
In sprint cars.
Sprint cars.
Talk about what you're doing now, and also Kingdom Racing.
So Kingdom Racing, George, another thing, George Del Conto from Kingdom Racing, we met, not my comeback year, but the next year in 07, we met down in Homestead and were introduced, and we just hit it off. We had the same visions, we had the same goals, and we got together with Kingdom Racing and grew it from, running the Indy 500 to being a full-time sponsor, to now having programs like Miles and Smiles where we bring underprivileged kids or battered kids or just people having a hard time in life, not just kids, to the races and showing them what we do, and trying to put a smile on their face for a day, and it's been a great program, and we work with Kingdom Racing. We have show cars now where we do a lot of meet and greets with whether it's churches, and talk about the stories and talk about how we're spreading the word of God through motorsports, and not just saying. George always says, I don't want just like God saves on the back of the car and run last, right? Right. So we put Kingdom Racing on the car, and people know what we stand for, and we win races, and we're competitive, and we're running up front, and we're really spreading it. I feel the way it's supposed to be spread. I mean, that we're having fun with it. We bring other people into it. We're able to, just as you said, the prayer breakfast they have the Speedway now. That's just things that happen. And Kingdom's a big part of that, and making sure that tries to all stay at the racetrack. And if you can change one person's life, we always say that, right? And Kingdom's been able to change a lot. They've been able to change a lot of people's lives.
You're racing with excellence, and you're modeling what you're teaching.
That's right. And we was able to spread the word around and change people. People have been saved and follow the Lord now, and it's a big deal. It's incredible. Really cool. And so that's such a key element of what we do today. And George and I talk daily, and trying to figure out the next vision and where we need to be, and knowing that it's already wrote, the script's there. It's just we still have to put that. You still have to get off the couch and put effort into it, right? You still have to do that, and so we do it not knowing where it's going to lead, although we know it's written, and who knows where we're going to end up, but some great things happening, and we have, we have our daily calls and daily prayer, and just see where we land, But it's good, and the other thing, back to the short track industry.
Yeah.
Where I came from, I'm trying to give back a little bit, to be honest with you. I mean, that gave me the opportunity to do my love, my passion, my sport, and be able to get to the top rank of IndyCar racing. My goal was to race one IndyCar race, and I raced lots.
Right.
I didn't race a lot. I've only been in 51 or 52 races, but it was a short amount of time that I've had a lot of success.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the injury came at my peak,
Yep.
my highlight of where things were going to, I mean, you look at all these drivers and their championships and their wins all come 4, 5, 6 years into their racing. Well, that's where I was getting to that point to have some great things happening. But now, giving back to the short track industry, my son's racing in sprint cars. He's a third generation Hamilton, and we were taking him to sprint car races, and I seen that he could race plenty of races. There were all kinds of races, but there were no special events. There was no Indy 500s.
Yeah.
There was no, Eldora King Royals, or there was no Copper Classics, or things that I grew up with that that there were certain races that you wanted to thrive and strive at because they were the big ones. And so I decided if I give back in any way to the sport and give back to the the young kids with opportunities to make it, is to create events. And so I put a deal. It's called King of the Wing. And we started with the first 3 races here in the Midwest, running Toledo Speedway, Winchester, Indiana, and then Grundy, Illinois. And then we finished the 6-race series off out in California at Madera Speedway, Irwindale Speedway in LA Basin, and then Bakersfield, the new track, Kern County Speedway in Bakersfield. It's already been a success. It's already been a hit. We've structured the rules to where people from Florida, California, Oregon, Canada, we all can meet in the middle and actually have an event and be on the same package and same rules, and the best of the best race against each other. It's grown. A lot of interest, a lot of enthusiasm, and the money's right for the racers. It's a chance for them to. We're working on some TV packages with Ralph Shaheen and Speed Sport News and MAV TV, and just a lot of good things coming out of it right now. And
That's
so
terrific.
a lot of effort into it. And like I say, I have a 17-year-old boy that's a senior in high school that is already racing against, I started racing at 17.
Yeah.
He's in cars I race against him with, and so it's
You,
pretty
your dad, and your son have all been on the track
all
against each
raced
other.
together in these races, yeah.
I bet that's
And I don't really want to tell you that my son beat both of us in all of them, but a 17-year-old did beat us in all of them.
You're a good teacher.
And well, I like to say that, but I think he listens to everybody else more than me. I'm just dad. I don't want to tell him to clean his room, put his bike away, and get his homework done. And so, but I try to surround him with good people and good equipment. And my dad, he's an amazing racer too. So hopefully that this is his second year, my son's second year in sprint cars, and second in the championship right now, and a lot he's doing well. So we'll just see where it takes him.
Davey, looking in the rearview mirror, you and Tracy were divorced, and you went through almost an unspeakable trial. It's hard. I don't think anyone can imagine it unless they've gone through it. A wounded warrior or a race car driver, or anybody for that matter who went through what you went through. Looking in the rearview mirror, do you think you grew closer to God at the mountaintop or in the valley?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually. And I think, I think it may be midway, because at the very bottom, I knew I needed him, but I knew he was there, And then at the very top, sometimes let me tell you, I appreciate everything I had, from no money and sleeping in trucks. And when I was able to drive for AJ Foyt's and Rick Alice's and be in the IndyCar series, and so you appreciate it, but sometimes you take things for granted. So I think when I was in the middle ground, knowing that he's the one that got me to the top of the mountain.
Wow.
And then knowing that he's the one that brought me up from the bottom of the valleys, and so I think that's where you really, I really opened my eyes the most to it, saying whether you wanted to crawl out of that valley or you wanted to get to the top of that mountain again, or if you're on your way down on what it takes to not hit down there. So, that's a good question because, I try to look at everything so positive, and I know that if that accident didn't happen, that number one, I wouldn't be sitting here today probably. I wouldn't have the opportunity to have that comeback story, which, as Mike King says, is the comeback of the 500.
Yes.
Which I don't know. I really don't feel that because I'm just a regular guy that had a passion and a dream, wanted to come back. But it makes you feel good to be at least in that league of a comeback of all time for the 500, and being able to speak to underprivileged people to try to help change people's lives. I'm not sure I would have had that opportunity without that accident. Life's good right now. Without it, I don't know. There's a lot of things that would have changed in life that I don't know that I would have been as whole and as complete that I am now that the accident did happen. So, yeah.
So what I get from that is you're thankful all the time.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It was meant to be, and God is only going to give you, what you can handle.
Right.
And I talked to a reporter just yesterday, and I haven't talked to her for a long time, but she's a great reporter. She's mostly moved from IndyCar to NASCAR, and for some reason, she just ran across my mind. So I just sent her a text, say, hey, haven't talked to you forever. How you doing? Hope things are well. And she goes, really not so good. I'm going through chemo. I got breast cancer, and so, but that was the perfect time. God had me think about her for a reason.
How about that?
And so I reached out and just, hopefully gave her the encouragement and to pray, and that God can only give you what you can handle, and, she's going to be fine, and then I'm there for her. And that's somebody I haven't talked to for a long, long time. So it's just wild how that just popped in my mind. And she's at the lowest of low and has two kids and has a great marriage. But she's in a painful spot right now, going through what she's going through. But hopefully that I gave her a little gleam of smile yesterday and a little bit of encouragement.
The Apostle Paul wrote, "Be joyful always, pray continually, and in all things give thanks." And I think that's a picture of your life. And he also wrote, poetically so, that we're supposed to run the race to win. Davey, I want to thank you for stopping by and out of your busy schedule and teaching us how to truly race to win.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. And thanks for having me and tell my story just a little bit.
Thanks. Love you, man.